All right, welcome to my series on how to catch coyotes in large numbers. In this series, I'm going to have a three-part series here that's going to show how I catch triple digits coyotes in a season. Just pretty run-of-the-mill. It's going to be very educational, lots of tips. It's going to be very, very simple, so stick around for that. Well, we got back in from the trap line. Today we got these 6 nice coyotes. To be honest, they were 50-50 split today. I had 3 in the trap and 3 in the snares. That's kind of just by the end of the season, that's kind of just how my trap line works. It's almost a 50-50 split every year. And I document it. I keep a journal on what sets I put in and what properties I'm at and what the trap to snare ratio is. So what do I consider a large number of coyotes? I would consider anything over maybe 50 coyotes a season would be getting up there, starting in the numbers of getting up there. So anywhere from 50 to however many you can think of. We've all seen YouTube videos of hundreds. So that's not this trapper. I like to try to get into the triple digits every year, and some years it works, some years it doesn't. So what I'm going to assume from the word go is you guys watching are already have a basic knowledge of trapping, different sets, how to bed a trap, how the equipment to use. So I'm just going to kind of touch on slightly on all of that. I'm assuming everybody knows how to make a coyote set. So the first thing I look at if I want to catch lots of coyotes is I'm going to be Captain Obvious on these couple of topics, but really you have to have the number of coyotes in your area. If you want to have 50 coyotes at the end of the season, you better have well over 50 coyotes to trap in your area. If you only have 20, you're probably not going to catch 50. You're going to catch maybe 10 or 15. So we never catch all the coyotes in the area, no matter how good of a trapper we are. So you got to have the coyotes. Number 2, I would say you have to have the trapping ground, the areas to trap. So for me to get into triple digits around here, I'm out in the west, I need to have somewhere, I don't know, I'll tell you what I have. I have over 100,000 acres that I trap. I haven't sat down and done the exact math, but between the handful of ranches that I trap up there, there's well over 100,000. There might be pushing 200. We'll see. So I've got lots of ground to trap, lots of diverse areas, lots of population to trap from. The last thing I need, maybe not the last thing, but another thing that I need is I need to have a lot of time. When I was first getting into trapping, I used to think that these guys who were catching 100 plus coyotes a year, they were going out, in a couple of weeks' time and hauling in 20 or 30 coyotes at a time, and that's just not the case for most people. Most guys are getting, like this behind me, this would be a typical day, six coyotes a day, maybe have some bobcats in there, have some days it might be 3 or 4 coyotes, some days it might be more, but I have to have a lot of time to go out and trap, set my traps, check my traps, that sort of thing. If I don't have the time, I can expect to catch, 15 or 20 coyotes. That's still a good season. And anybody who can catch 15 or 20 coyotes, congratulations, you are a coyote trapper. You've done a good job. But to get into higher numbers, there's a few other little secrets and other tricks you need to learn and kind of think outside the box to try to understand how to catch this great number of coyotes, whatever your goal number might be. Mine's always triple digits. So let's say that for this video, I'm going to try to get into triple digits. So let's go from there. So we got to have lots of population. We've got to have lots of ground to trap, and then we've got to have lots of time. So probably my next thing on the list would be being diverse. That's kind of a complicated thing. You have to be extremely simple and extremely diverse, at least in my area. So I'm standing in 6.5, 7 inches of snow right now. That's really tough to trap coyotes in. In a week from now, it may be nothing. It may be uh, rain come through, melted the snow, and we're down to bare ground that's sopping wet, frozen solid. So in order to be diverse, what I do on my trap line is I run a lot of snares and I run a lot of traps. So I'm going to get really into detail in the next couple of videos on my trap and my snare, but I'll tell you right now, with my snares, I run a 60-inch cable, 5/64, 1x19. I use a micro lock with a loop at the end, and I've got hundreds of them that are identical. Everything's exactly the same. As far as my traps, I run around 120 traps. I have more traps than that if I need them, but 120 all the same, Duke #2 square jaw. It's just the best trap for the money that I have found. I don't modify them one bit. I take them out of the box. Half the time I just set them right out of the box. Half the time I'll clean them and wax them and stuff and dye them. That's kind of beside the point for right now, but that'd be my two methods of doing it. I'll use my cables or I'll use my traps. I'm diverse as far as if it's 8 inches of snow or a foot of snow, my traps are under snow, or I'm having to clean the snow off of my trap. They'll still work in the snow, but it's a totally different system. Opposed to my snares, the coyotes are still running those same trails that they always run, and 9 times out of 10, you don't even have to touch your snare. 6 inches of snow, they're going to be about an inch taller by the time they step through the snow. No big deal. So those snares really, really do a good big connection. They do a good thing as far as being able to be diverse. If the ground is frozen or it's snowed or it's sopping wet or anything like that, then I have a backup plan. My backup plan is my snares. So not my primary plan. I definitely like my traps. So as far as my trap line goes, my traps itself, let me talk just a minute about baits and lures. I love bait, I love lure, I love urine. That's all fine and dandy. I just don't use it. And I really think it plays a much smaller part in your catch than what most trappers think. I think a lot of new trappers, at least when I was new, I wanted a really good call lure, I wanted a really good bait, and I wanted lots of it so that these coyotes would come into my set and work my set. And I found it to be the exact opposite. I use one lure / bait, and it's Powder River by O'Gorman. Everybody knows it. It's a great bait lure. I use red fox urine and I use coyote urine. That's pretty much it at any trap set. I do make a homemade lure that I use once in a while if I'm running low on my Powder River or out of that or something. So those are the three things I use. And the Powder River, as far as when coyote trapping comes along, I use very, very little. I will use 1 can of that per season. That's it. On all my sets, 100 coyotes. So that tells you how little I use. My point in making this video is to try to help the young guys or the newer guys realize how easy these things are to catch if you have the right setup for them. You give them the right setup, the picture perfect, I'm going to call it the perfect coyote set guaranteed, because it works every time. Every time they come in, it works. So I'll get further into that on the third part of this series. I'll get further into the coyote sets, the trap sets. So my snares, let me talk about those for just a second. I use 0 bait piles, the big bait stations, I think they're called. I use 0. I think it's a great idea. It's just, this is my trap line, so that's just how I do it. 0 bait stations. I use 0 lure, 0 urine, 0 anything. They're 100% blind sets, my snares are. And like I said, I get 50% of my annual catch comes from those blind set snares. So what I did is I kind of put the two together, and I learned making these step down dirt holes, or the double dirt hole, or a T-bone, or a hay pile set, or a tire set, or You name it, big dirt hole, little dirt hole, you name it. There's a million different sets that we can use, and they're all very effective, and set the ones you want to set. I have dumbed mine down and simplified mine down so much that it doesn't matter the smell, it doesn't matter the set that you're using. It's all the same principle. And it's the same principle for my snare. So when I roll up to an area and I see a spot with brush and a trail, I see a snare hole, a snare set. When I see a spot that's wide open with a trail, maybe a few little pieces of brush on the ground, that's a spot for a trap. And that's my two, there's only one or the other. And then I set it and I drive on and do it again and again and again until I've got hundreds of coyotes in my fur shed. So I'd really like to drive home two things: simplicity and consistency. As long as I have a very simple set that works every time and I'm consistent, I become extremely efficient. I reach for the same tool, the same trap, the same snare, and I can make a set in minutes, trap set in minutes. I can make a snare set in seconds, less than a minute usually. And I can go out and I can do this over and over and over and over. That way, when it comes back to my time, I'm using the most amount of time to check my traps, and I get the most traps in the ground during the season. And so that's one thing that helps me get a large number of coyotes, is I just spend the time doing it, but I'm not spending my time out setting and checking 24 traps. I'm checking a couple hundred sets between my snares and my traps, you know. So right now I am 1 week into the season, 7 days into the season. I've got 10 coyotes and a bobcat caught so far, and I've only had 2 checks by the time I had set the first several days and checked and whatever. I've only got, so that's what my season looks like. And if I can average somewhere between 10 and 15 coyotes a week, that's what I'm looking for 8 to 10 weeks. Some weeks are going to be more, some weeks are going to be less, especially you start getting in an area where it gets trapped out. You know, you might start getting into the 6 or 8 coyotes a week, but then you set a new spot and the following week you're getting 20 coyotes in the week, you know. So the numbers kind of go up and down, but that's kind of my goal per week. So being extremely efficient with my time and having lots of sets out and having simple sets that I make the same one over and over and over, that's how I'm going to produce the most efficiency and how I'm going to produce the most coyotes for my time spent. The other thing we have to look at, or I have to look at, is I skin all of my own coyotes. I do all my own fur handling. So that will be a totally separate topic. But somewhere in my schedule, I've got to leave time. It takes me 15 to 20 minutes to skin and bore, flesh and stretch one coyote. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 20. What's that? Minimum of 2 hours if everything's going good. That's more like a 3-hour job by the time I start the fire and get warmed up and take a break here and there. I got 3 hours worth of coyotes to skin at the end of the day. So my normal trapline day might be 10 hours out running. We don't get 10 hours of daylight, but you know, I got to drive for my trapline. So I got 2 hours a day driving and 6 or 8 checking. And then when I get done, I've got to come home and spend the time skinning. So there's a lot of time involved, and time management is probably one of the top 3 things that you have to have, is time management, the population, and you got to have sets that work. And I'm going to show you the sets that work on the next video. I'm going to show you all my snare sets, and I'll show you I'll go into real great detail on what I'm using and what, I have 2 sets that I make with my snares. That's it. No other sets. In the third part of this, I have a video. I have 1 set that I make 99% of the time for my coyotes. I'll have a 1% of the time I will do this off the wall, you know, kind of an opportunistic set, or like a total blind set in a trail. That's 1% of my coyotes are caught on that. 99% of them in the trap are caught on this perfect coyote set. And I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to go into good detail so that The young guys can see it. The experienced guys can see it. Agree, disagree, whatever. It's really hard to make a living coyote trapping. Catching lots of coyotes is lots of time. You start putting $1 per hour in there, and you might as well go pick up pop cans. But it's a lot of fun. It's really good for our environment. And hey, I enjoy it. I do make money doing it. So stick around for this series. I'm going to get in and get these coyotes skinned. Stick around for the series. The part 2 will be on snaring, and I'm going to go into great detail and show you a bunch of coyotes that we've got snared. Half of these here were snared. I think the first check, all of them were snared. Nope, 3 were snared, 1 was in a trap. So bobcats, are 99% of those are in the traps, but this is more of a coyote video. So stick around for part 2, and it will be well worth your time watching. Thank you.